Video of some long jump. Talk about how to make it better. We'll talk about some common mistakes people can make. Some good things. So the person in the video was me. This is a 7 meter 95 jump from Queensland in Australia. Again, I'll play this about 3 times. One more time. Okay, so long jump run up. Some things to look out for. This is a 16-step run up. You can usually break it down into an acceleration, transition, max V, getting ready to jump. People have just drive phase, tall phase, jump phase. As long as it's broken down into some sort of phase, and you can use your own phases to get some consistency of your run up. But if it's a 16-step run up, you probably want to see the board after 4 or 5 steps, just so you can work in those small adjustments. If you don't see the board until later in the run up, you'll usually find you get very small fouls, or you're behind the board. If you give your body a chance to sort of automatically make its own adjustments, you'd be surprised how consistent you can get in the board. So we go 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm probably looking at the board around there. My head's up, I'm still driving. I can still call this like a drive phase, but you want to kind of see the board. And I'm fully upright. One thing I want to talk about is bounciness when you run. You talk about what you do when you jump, what you do when you get to the board. It should be an exaggeration of what you've done down the runway. So if your running's very flat and fast, you'll find your jump is very flat and fast. So you'll just skirt off into the pit and you won't have a lot of height. If your running's quite bouncy and slow, you'll easily find you go right up in the air and back down again. So trying to find a nice combination of both. So it's pretty hard to talk about being bouncy just in a video. And we can use certain lines of reference. So we actually have this bit of shadow here. So we can actually use this and use the waistline from where my singlet meets my shorts. And you can see a subtle bounce. I touch the ground and go back up. So it moves up and down slightly. So when I get to the board, you'll see the drop, and then a bigger bounce off the board. People talk about what we do in the air, whether we want to do a hang, a hitch kick, a full hitch, a sail. To be honest, if you get to the board and get off the board efficiently, your body usually finds a way to coordinate itself in the air to optimize landing. I mean, unless something's drastically going wrong, you'll usually find the guys who can jump 8 meters, 850 plus tend to go for the full hitch. They're in the air slightly longer, or they have more frequency down the runway, 4.5 strides a second. So it's just easy for them to continue the running off the board. If you're big and boundy and slow, you'll easily find it like to go for a nice sail or a hitch and a half, just because you're not going outside the norm of what the body likes to do. So for me, I'm usually quite big and slow, so I'll go for the hitch and a half. So as you can see, the running into the board is just quite nice and bouncy and relaxed. So when I get to the board, again in the air, you're nice and relaxed and open. So big open steps. Then I get to the board, and it's just a nice big open step. Then I get to here, I'm kind of coming down ready to land. So there's nothing additional I need to do. I don't need to try and force an extra step. I don't need to get to the board and just try and hold some takeoff my body doesn't like. Honestly, it's just really about what your body feels most comfortable with. I basically get to here, and I know I'm going to land soon, so I just get ready to land. I don't even try to do a leg shoot. Just my body just falls into this. I have tried sail technique, I've tried hang technique, I've tried a full hitch technique, and it all just feels super uncomfortable in the air. And one thing I find is if you're already thinking about how you're going to land or what you're going to do in the air before you jump, you compromise the takeoff of the last few steps in preparation to do something different. If you just have the intent to run through the board and let it happen naturally, you'll usually find the last few steps much quicker. You do things much nicer, and then the run and jump just takes care of itself. For me personally, it's not a lot of times I've thought to myself, okay, I'm going to do this in the air, I'm going to land this specific way, and it's turned out successfully. Usually for me, I just run. I focus on what I'm going to do past the board or how it's going to feel. It's going to feel like I run through the board or run up some steps. And then everything else, honestly, just takes care of itself on the good days. One thing I probably would correct about this is I'm still leaning forward slightly. So you can see kind of here, this torso angle is kind of leaning forward. Maybe a bit of a premature drop, not too bad. You can tell by how flexed the knee is at touchdown. So that's pretty straight. And then when I come through the board again, that's pretty straight. I'm just leaning forward slightly. That's quite nice there. Everyone has to drop. The more you drop, the more speed you lose, but the more drop, the more height you get. So you're trying to ride the wave of how much is too much and how little is too little. And again, I can give you numbers like 5 centimeters of a drop or 2 centimeters of a drop if you're going at 10 meters a second, but honestly, it's just trial and error. And the further you jump, the more things are going to change. So you don't want to be specifically good at one thing. You want to be good at a lot of different things. Because if you're a 650 jumper and you want to jump 7 meters, you're going to have to do something different. If you're a 7 meter jumper wanting to jump 750, again, you're going to have to do something different. So that's all I'll talk about in this video. I feel like as I talk through more videos, I can use the same video again and look at something completely different. How the foot finds the ground, how the run up builds, how the strides get longer, but I'll keep things pretty simple. I think just having consistency down the runway, making sure you can see the board early, and don't focus too much on how you land.